Happiness versus life meaningfulness. What's the difference and why does it matter? When Sigmund Freud was asked what is the purpose of life, his answer was simply that the purpose of life is about striving for happiness. So in particular, avoiding pain and achieving pleasure. But this guy, Viktor Frankl, had a different way of answering this question. He thought maybe there's more to life than happiness. Maybe people also want to feel like their life has some meaning to it.
Or at least they are out virtually to satisfy and gratify each and every human need. Except for one need, the most basic and fundamental need operant in man, the need for meaning.
Now, what inspired Frankl's answer? He was a Holocaust survivor. At the concentration camp, he observed that whether the other prisoners survived or not seemed to relate to whether they could find meaning in their suffering. He went on to believe that for us human beings, we have this need to understand our place in the universe and also the significance of how we spend our lives. And by the way, Frankl's theory on life meaningfulness was very influential of his work as a psychiatrist, philosopher, and author. So what is the difference between happiness and life meaningfulness? This is a study that investigated this. The researchers looked at life meaningfulness and happiness in 397 US adults. Participants were asked questions on how happy they feel, how meaningful they think their lives are, and other life-related questions, such as, do you consider yourself an anxious person? Or does partying with alcohol reflect who you are? Not surprisingly, it was found that life meaningfulness and happiness are highly correlated with each other. So people who are happy also tend to feel like their life is meaningful. But what the researchers really wanted to know was what was related to life meaningfulness but not to happiness, and the other way around. In other words, in what ways are these two things different to each other? They found 5 key differences between the two. Number 1, a happy but not meaningful life is about seeking pleasure and satisfaction. In other words, getting what you want and need is related to happiness but not to life meaningfulness. Interestingly, people who said that their lives were a struggle were fairly unhappy, not surprisingly, but they also had higher scores for life meaningfulness. Imagine someone who has their dream job, but it's causing them a lot of stress. They might not be happy, but they still see meaning in the work that they do. Or imagine a mother of a newborn baby where she feels exhausted and sleep deprived most of the time. She doesn't feel particularly happy, but at the same time, she still sees a lot of meaning in being a mother to this baby. Number 2, happiness is in the present, whereas life meaningfulness involves thinking about the past and future. The researchers found that the more that people think about their past and future, the more meaningful they felt their lives were. This might be because they are thinking about their life as one coherent story, where they're not just thinking about the good times, but they're also reflecting on past suffering and what their purpose is, both right now and in the future. Number 3, happiness is about receiving, life meaningfulness is about giving. You're happy when other people do things for you, but your life is more meaningful when you do things for other people. The researchers actually found that helping other people in need was linked with having higher life meaningfulness, but it didn't have a direct relationship with happiness. Now, of course, when you help someone, you usually do feel happier, but here's what the researchers noticed. That boost in happiness didn't come from the act of kindness itself. It came from that sense of meaning you get from helping other people. In other words, it's the increase in life meaningfulness that drives the increase in happiness. This makes sense. If you help someone and then it doesn't feel rewarding, you're probably not going to end up feeling any happier. And while you might not literally be thinking about life meaningfulness after you help someone, there is that you might be asking yourself things like, did it feel morally rewarding? Was I appreciated? Is this something that I should do more often? Number 4, meaningfulness involves thinking about the bigger picture. As discussed by the researchers, people find life meaning by thinking beyond their own wants and needs. Things such as reflecting on personal challenges and struggles and deep thinking, these were linked with stronger feelings of life meaningfulness. If you want to be happy, you might indulge yourself in pleasures and satisfactions, but as discussed by the researchers, you won't find life meaning this way. Parenting is actually a pretty good example of this, and there is in fact what's referred to as the parenthood paradox. A lot of people believe that having kids will make them happier, but actually becoming a parent can make you less happy. You get much less time to yourself, less money to spend on yourself, and for a lot of parents, they might feel like their kids are just constantly fighting and screaming and carrying on. In general, parenting involves a lot of self-sacrifice and can be really exhausting. But interestingly, this study found that of all those participants who were parents, the more time they spent taking care of their children, the more meaningful their lives were. The researchers also found that while happiness was linked to a higher number of positive life events, life meaningfulness was linked to both positive and negative life events. In other words, a meaningful life is a full life. It includes not just the ups, but also stress, misfortune, worry, and other negative life events. Number 5, having a sense of identity is related to life meaningfulness, but not happiness. And in fact, if you spend too much time worrying about who you are or how you express yourself, this can make you less happy. Life meaning, on the other hand, is all about self-expression. In other words, expressing who you are. Your values, your creativity, your personality, these are things that can help build a sense of life meaning. You might be interested to know that those who said that their lives are meaningful were also more likely to see themselves as wiser, more creative, and even more anxious than others. Whereas wisdom and creativity weren't related to happiness at all. So why does all of this matter? Basically because there is so much emphasis out there on how to be happy, but there is much less said about how to find meaning in your life. Happiness is about feeling good right now. It could be a luxurious holiday, buying a new TV, getting a compliment from someone. But life meaningfulness is all about why your life matters, and it's what keeps you going when life starts to get difficult. If you confuse happiness with life meaningfulness, then you risk building a life that feels good but also feels empty. Ideally, you want to have a balance of both. You want moments of happiness, but you also want to be able to look back on your life and think, hey, that mattered. What I did made a difference. There is also that if you feel like your life doesn't have a sense of meaning, this is a risk factor for depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation, alcohol and drug-related disorders, and just generally a higher level of distress and life dissatisfaction. There's even some evidence that it can lower your life expectancy, but this is something that I'll talk about in another video. As always, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments section below. Thanks for watching.